Yes.
Is it?
Yeah,
It's like,
but it's a different color.
Lavender, violet, purple, I don't know. They're all the same to me.
violet is more blue.
You are making the transition from test taker to test maker. Woohoo. You are going to make an AP multiple choice test. You're not going to make a full test of like 55 questions and 4 passages, but you are going to do a 1 passage, 12 question AP like mini exam, so to speak. Reason for it, I kind of mentioned you're going from test taker to test maker. I guess not officially because you still have to take a test, and technically you can't make a test. 2 months from next Friday.
Oh my god.
But who's counting?
You. No one.
I guess you.
Yeah, no.
It's fun to count when you don't take it. It's a much more enjoyable experience from my end. When you take tests, and you've done a fair number of multiple choice AP at this point, some of you have an SAT test next weekend, and have already started to take those things, whether it be PSATs or SAT prep classes. You tend to be in a good spot when you can anticipate what questions are going to be. And some of you are already there, whether it be on an AP or PSAT or SAT, where like you can read something and go, okay, they're going to ask me a question about this. With the poetry quizzes, a lot of folks will go, wait a minute, there's a shift here, I bet I'm going to have a question. As you look over your poems to do your TP casts, I bet in some cases you do correctly anticipate that there's going to be a question about these lines. Might not know exactly the way the question's going to go, but you're able to start to figure out, I think this is the spot that they're going to ask questions about. I want you to kind of take on that test taker role because you have to look at the passage differently when you're creating the questions, you're creating the answers for it than you do when you are being the test taker. By no means does it guarantee automatic 100% success on your future test, but I think that shift in perspective, though temporary, can still have a pretty good positive impact on you when you do go to take it. So essentially, this is can be individual, can be a group project up to 4. Where you are going to choose a passage from something that we have read this year, and you're going to make AP questions about it. My only stipulation is it can't be something that we've read that we've done AP questions for. So no one's going to go, hey, Imitations of Horace, that's a good poem. I think I might make some AP questions about that one. And lo and behold, you come up with 12 or 13 AP questions fairly quickly. Gee, I wonder how that happened. Now, you can certainly look at past multiple choice things that we've done, because that's a pretty good template for how those questions are worded and whatnot. But the first thing that you really want to do is try to come up with a passage that we have read throughout the course of the year. That passage could be from any books that we have read, beginning with The Grapes of Wrath, continuing on through Invisible Man. Fair number of groups tend to do Invisible Man simply because you're familiar with it, it's fresh in your mind. But if there are any books that you particularly enjoyed more so than others, by all means you can go ahead and use that. You can use smaller things. The document sources that we did, like Martin Luther King, Letter from Birmingham Jail, Civil Disobedience, always waiting for a group to do Civil Disobedience, just one, or Heart of Darkness. Brownie points, you might be able to get some. But you could go with those passages. Bedford Reader, I Have a Dream speech we did at the very beginning of the year. Swift's Modest Proposal was in there. And, a whole bunch of other readings that we've certainly done. So pick something that you think you like. All things being equal, I tend to think nonfiction is easier because they tend to be speeches. It tends to really work well with the questions that we do. But there's no reason why you can't do Gatsby, Cuckoo's Nest, Catcher in the Rye, anything like that. So you have your awkward kind of group moment where like you raise eyebrows at one another to see if Jack is going to work with you. That look means he's not. And then you look at somebody else. If you, and again, there's no reason why you cannot work by yourself. Certainly some people prefer that. Some folks really test group work. And it's nice to kind of be in control of what you're doing. And by her testing group work, she's really talking about you. That's not what you said. But the max would be 4. So it can be 1, can be 2, 3, 4. Sometimes I'll have groups where, like, generally you do have 4 people working together, but they find it easier to split that into 2 pairs of 2. so you're still kind of by each other, bouncing ideas, but it's easier to, I guess, just have two folks working with it. Each group is going to give me a paper copy of the test. It's not a turnitin.com thing or anything like that, but you're just going to give me a paper copy of your test, but one per group. So if it is a group of 3, I don't need 3 documents coming my way, I only need 1. So you pick something that we have read throughout the course of the year. You're going to come up with 12 AP-style multiple choice questions with appropriately challenging answers, 5 for each. And then you have to make sure that your passage is going to be of appropriate length in the ballpark of 55 to 70 lines. If it needs to go a little bit longer, that's fine. I can't think of any passages off the top of my head or books that we don't have electronic copies of, or that I don't have electronic copies of. So if you are taking something from Invisible Man, it's not that you need to type out the whole passage. I can give you a link for a PDF copy, and you can kind of copy and paste it in. You sometimes might select something that is too long. If it's 120 lines, that's not going to work, but you can certainly cut it down through the use of ellipses, just put the ... cut out sentences that you do not need. That can certainly be fine. So there are ways to manipulate sentence length and all that kind of stuff. You just have to make sure that all of your questions tie into the part of the passage that you include. So for example, Kaylee decides that she's going to do One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. There's going to be a passage, Chief narrating. Unless Chief within that passage says something about pretending to be deaf and dumb, you can't assume that the reader knows that. So don't have any assumptions that the test taker's already read the story. You're basing all of your questions on content that is eligible within that passage itself. If you're doing a modest proposal, that's fine, but you can't make reference to something else that Swift wrote earlier in the passage if it's not included in the part that you are doing. There are 12 questions that you're going to come up with. There's 9 types of questions, and of course you can't quite fit them all in on the same board. So 1 through 6. You are just doing 1 question each for syntax, diction, tone, pronoun reference, vocab and context, and narration point of view. And there's a little bit of explanation underneath, with each one as to what it means. So syntax, you're going to be looking at the sentence structure, patterns that are taking place. You might be identifying characteristics that make it unique. You might be asking the reader to kind of come up with a description of the sentence structure. Syntax, rhetorical purpose, literary technique, you have a bunch of literary terms, devices within your course syllabus. This might be a time that they kind of come up. Diction, you're certainly familiar with. Tone tends to be an overall tone of a passage or a specific section, but tone is going to be encompassing basically a whole segment of a passage. Diction, you're going to be looking at individual word choice for a few words. Pronoun reference, those are those antecedent questions. He, she, it in line 17 refers back to, and then you have to give other options. And then narration, point of view, vocabulary, and context. How is a word being used? For number 1, it doesn't mean it has to be a fancy language enrichment word. It could be a standard term, but it might just be getting used in a different way that you could pose a question about. And then narration, point of view, the attitude or viewpoint of a particular subject. How many answer choices do you get for each question? There's always 5. What do you never see for E that you do see on some tests? You never have a none of the above, and technically you don't have an all of the above. However, there is one type format, I don't mean like these types of questions, but the Roman numeral questions, which as the test taker, you folks usually do not like. But as a test maker, if you can only come up with 3 or 4 viable options, what does this give you the ability to do? 1 only, 2 only, 1 and 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this might be something that you actually do like when it comes to creating the test. I put a max on 2. So you can do 2 Roman numeral questions if you want. You don't have to do any. But I don't want Luke coming up with 3 answer options for every single question, and every one being 1 only, 1 and 2, 3 only, 1, 2, 3, 1 and 3, where he's kind of now trying to cheat the system a little bit. So you can do Roman numeral questions if you want, but it would be a max at 2. For numbers 7, 8, and 9, the 2 in parentheses just simply means that you're going to have 2 effect questions, 2 literary technique questions, 2 rhetorical purpose. Think about rhetorical purpose like a spa. You're going to be taking a look at verbs, usually as your answer choices. Literary techniques, these are going to be, for the most part, your lit terms, figurative language for the most part that's taking place. Effect tends to be the type of question that I think people struggle with the most. You're essentially looking at what is the effect of one part of the passage on another. So there have been questions before where, if you were to describe the structure of the passage, you might get something like an answer choice. Paragraph 1 introduces an issue. Paragraph 2 elaborates on that issue. That's kind of dealing with the effect that takes place. So that's one that I can help you out with if we need to. Mr. Kane? Hey. Okay, so she's good to go then. Okay. We would be more than happy to accommodate. Yeah, that's fine. All right, thank you. Bye. Told you it's your class and it's fourth period. If Luke's in my room, fourth period, I get phone calls. Second period, he's in the room, I get phone calls. So for those 7, 8, 9, you would create 2 of those questions. When you take a test, your questions are in chronological order. They follow the organization of the passage. So if you have a question about line 7, that's going to come before a question about line 11. Please don't be the person who goes, but Mr. Kane, I don't have a vocabulary and context question at the beginning of my passage. Kaylee, it does happen. You don't have to put them in that order. Move them around. Just make sure you have 1 through 1 through 6. You got 1 of those. 7, 8, 9. You have 2 of those. So they don't have to go in that order. It's up to you as to how you want to do it. But just make sure they go in chronological order of the passage. The exception to that would be you do have questions sometimes that deal with the passage as a whole. So those could kind of go wherever you want. But if something's about the beginning of the passage, it'll be one of the early questions. Later ones will take place later. The official due date is by Monday the 13th. You will have a document to give to me. You are going to be able to, today, and I got a couple more things to show you, but today you're going to be able to kind of figure out groups, hopefully maybe select a passage so you can kind of start thinking about it. You have access to laptops and books and all that stuff Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of next week. So the main thing is you're still reading at home, but then Monday through Thursday in class you have the ability to work on the project. Minor exception being Wednesday because the first roughly 15 minutes of class you got the poetry quiz that we would do. So really count today it's like 4.5, close to 5 days for you kind of think about it. Paper copy comes into me. When you are making your test, you have to have a correct answer. Make sure you designate that correct answer somehow, some way. You can do the asterisk if you want to underline the correct answer. If you want to bold, italicize, that's perfectly fine. Just do something that indicates the answer's A, the answer's B. This sounds silly. Make sure your incorrect answers are incorrect and your correct answers are correct. That doesn't always happen. Types of questions that really tends to take place tends to be literary technique, and people will do a question like lines 1 through 40 use all of the rhetorical devices except. And so they'll identify the ones, and you're supposed to find the one that's not there. I've had it before where all 5 are there.
Me too, but it's like on the actual AP questions.
Then there's something wrong with your phone there. Or which device gets used, and they'll mention, it's A, but I can also see where C and D would be in there as well. So you want to make sure your correct answers are correct. How you divvy up responsibility within your group is up to you. If you're in a group of 4, you could do it where everyone does 3 questions. Sometimes you'll have a group of 4 where you do 4, you do 4, you do 4. I'll take care of putting everything together in the document, in the Google Doc sheet or something like that, because some people just don't like doing it. I would suggest setting up a Google document so that you can share it with one another, so that if you do have multiple laptops out or you're at home, you don't have to, save copies to flash drives and all that kind of stuff. You can all work on it in real time. Plus, we can find out who's the anonymous envelope and ferret and all that kind of stuff on the little Google pages. That's fine. wombats tend to be pretty popular with their animal. On the back of the page, I gave you a list of question stems, like 40 of them. Just options, ways that you can kind of word some things. And as I said, you have a ton of AP multiple choice stuff in your possession, or you should. You got poetry quizzes. We've done sample multiple choice. You have a midterm that was a full AP exam. So you can certainly look at those to kind of get sense ideas as to how they were worded. I did include a sample that was done many moons ago. These folks pulled it from the jungle back when that was a summer reading assignment. Their test is not perfect by any means. There are flaws with it, but it looks nice. So it's good to at least show you the setup, the structure, how it would be. They have the whole passage, they have their line numbers ready to go, and then they have their questions, for the most part, in the proper order. If you are doing, so you can see where example of Roman numeral questions would be taking place and things like that. When you do have questions that are like pronoun antecedent, you know that you get line numbers because they'll give you specific lines to look at, so make sure you include those things. It's very important that your line numbers are accurate, because if your line numbers are off and you ask a question about a line number, but you're thinking about a different line number than what you wrote, or vice versa, it can get really confusing very quickly. So those would all be kind of like little finishing touches, things that you want to be able to take care of. At this point, any questions at least about what you're supposed to do? When you haven't figured out. At the bottom of the front sheet, there's a reference to an AP multiple choice template. And right now on Google Classroom, it's at the top of the stream, but I also made sure to put it in the AP exam prep little topic over here. We're number 5. But there's multiple choice constructions, the same document that you have. The top one, though, where it says exam template, that is something that you're going to want to open up, because I set up a document where there's already basically a double text box with the line numbers. So if you copy and paste or type in a document in Times New Roman 10-point font, you shouldn't really have any line number issues. Once you get your document set up, things from there pretty much kind of fall into place for the most part. But you can open that up through the Google Classroom. I also have the questions started, 1, 2, 3, going through 12, A, B, C, D, E. If you open it in a new window, you then get the ability to download a copy. You can work on it in Word. You can open it in Google Docs, but that'll give you the ability then to manipulate, edit the copy. So that's in Google Classroom, so you would have access to that at any time. Most of you have already signed up for it. If you haven't, it'll be an opportunity to take care of that. Besides Ray wondering what you got him for his birthday, any questions? Why was Jack's birthday better?
We didn't see it be right today, do you have it?
No, I
Scotch?
enjoy
Actually,
it.
no.
It is actually like that.
Your birthday was better.
I
because I didn't have to read
genuinely
them.
enjoyed that.
No, I do.
Oh, thank you.
No problem. Thought I read something.
I just feel
All right, we got about 13, 14 minutes. I'll let you do your awkward look around, figure out who you want to go with. 1 through 4 would be our group size. The goal is to figure out then what are you doing.
All the time.
Right, you-
Oh my gosh.